Can you pick the gold rush? Yeah, but you can.
The California Gold Rush is often told as a story of triumph, of men striking gold and basking in newfound wealth. This story begins in 1848, following the Treaty of Guadalupe in Del Lago with Mexico. California was finally open for U.S. expansion, and the potential for the country to grow from one coast to the other was limitless. While some did find their fortunes in California, many others were victims of countless tragedies. Through stories of these men, we were able to understand the hardships, heartbreaks, and realities they faced. The gold rush was started by an accidental discovery. John Sutter, a Swiss immigrant, quickly took advantage of an open California and started to build a sawmill in Coloma, California, with the dream of creating an agricultural-based community. Little did Sutter know that his simple endeavor to build a mill would result in worldwide attention and cause the largest mass migration in U.S. history. Sutter hired James Wilson Marshall to build the mill. On January 24, 1848, Marshall was working at the South Fork of the American River at Sutter's mill when he suddenly saw what appeared to be gold in the water. Upon further investigation, Marshall discovered a gold nugget and shared the news with Sutter. This discovery changed the course of history. Marshall and Sutter tried their best to keep the discovery of gold quiet until the construction of Sutter's mill was complete. They were concerned that their workmen would desert their jobs and turn to prospecting for gold. However, the news soon leaked out and spread like wildfire. By May of 1848, word had reached San Francisco when a Mormon merchant, Sam Brennan, waved a quinine bottle filled with glittering dust at San Franciscans. "Gold!" he shouted. "Gold! Gold from the American River!" Within days, half the city's population had departed. One of the men who worked with Marshall, James S. Brown, recounts in his written memoirs, "Just when we had got partly to work, here came Mr. Marshall, with his old wool hat in hand, and stopped within 6 or 8 yards of the saw pit, and exclaimed, 'Boys, I got her now!' I, being the nearest to him, and having more curiosity than the rest of the men, jumped from the pit and stepped to him, and on looking in his hat discovered that 10 or 12 pieces of small scales of what proved to be gold. I picked up the largest piece, worth about 50 cents, and tested it with my teeth. As it did not give, I held it aloft and exclaimed, 'Gold, boys, gold!'" As the first waves of people arrived in Coloma, Marshall and Sutter tried in vain to charge a commission for any gold found by other miners. By the end of 1848, Sutter was forced to sell 1/3 of his timber and mill rights to raise money for his depleted coffers. He haggled with the eager prospectors so forcefully that they became enraged to the point of finally attacking the mill workers, and drove Marshall and Sutter from the site of discovery. In his memoirs, Marshall wrote, "I was soon forced to again leave Coloma for want of food. My property was swept from me, and no one would give me employment. They did not wish the man that made the discovery under their control. Thus I wandered for more than 4 years." Ironically, he has been remembered in death as one of California's more influential, though accidental, history makers. In 1876, Marshall died in debt, and his friend, Margaret A. Kelly, wrote in a letter, "Probably no man ever went to his grave so misunderstood, so misjudged, so misrepresented, so altogether slandered as James W. Marshall." These events marked a tragedy for Marshall and Sutter, while simultaneously marked a triumph for many others. The rush for gold spread across America in 1849, and newspapers coined the term "gold fever" to describe the droves of men who went to California. Most prospectors who came did not strike it rich in the gold fields and returned home. Those who stayed contributed to California's unprecedented, rapid statehood, commercial, agricultural, and industrial development.
The gold rush was dominated by men. In 1852, 92% of the gold mining population was male. The majority of the men who traveled to find gold came with very little and relied on the opportunity to strike it rich. The men who traveled to find their wealth were dubbed the 49ers, after the year they left home to make their way to California. The 49ers were such an influential group in the founding of California that their adventurous and courageous spirit lives on in the San Francisco 49ers football team. The first wave of prospectors were mostly from Oregon and Hawaii. This endeavor was not an easy process, and there were many men who left with less than what they came with and lived in trying conditions. As John Kincaid wrote to his family back home in September of 1850, "I am lonesome in this cold, dark, rainy night. I have wet blankets to sleep in. I would give an ounce to crawl into my old bed at home and remain there until morning. It would feel good to feel dry and safe. My feet are wet, my back is wet, and I am not well." While many of the men who traveled to California to find gold were from the United States, there was a substantial foreign population. Those from outside of the U.S. had a different experience than that of their white American counterparts. The migrants from China, slaves, and those from South America all faced a racist environment. In 1850, more than 25% of the population in California was born outside of the United States. 3 years into the gold rush, there were 25,000 immigrants from China. They were unwanted and often tormented in the mining camps. In order to stop the continuous arrival of Chinese miners, the California legislature passed the Foreign Miners Tax of 1850. This tax was enacted that all non-citizens the tax was $20 per month, that was up to $500 today. The ultimate tax was repealed and replaced by a $2 market tax, which was also $80 today. During the gold rush, the U.S. was in the midst of a national reckoning about the country's future regarding the end of slavery. California joined the Union as a free state, although there are conflicting reports regarding when it joined the Union. They did not extend civil rights to African Americans or Native Americans. California was an anti-slavery state, however, it was not an anti-racist state. California passed in 1852 an anti-fugitive law that allowed for slave owners to enter the state and reclaim their land. Miners were aggressive towards slave owners who brought slaves to mine for gold. This aggression may not have been one born out of intolerance towards slavery, but instead miners saw that using slaves was an unfair advantage when it came to mining. There was a population that attempted to free and aid slaves who were in the mines and fought for the idea that gold belonged to the man who found it. Some slaves were able to earn enough to buy their freedom. However, this tale of triumph is one that is surrounded by the tragedy of slaves who were horribly treated by the slave owners and the other miners in the area. The preservation of countless newspapers, drawings, diaries, and letters have allowed for a deeper understanding of the gold rush era. One diary that has survived through the ages is that of Argentinian Ramon de Navarro. Ramon was a political exile living in Chile when he joined a mining company and made his way to California in search of riches and possibilities. Through his travel, Ramon was able to explore a new land and meet new people. His diary illustrates a time of hardship, but also one of great admiration for the people who had traveled far and wide for the mere prospect of changing their lives. His excitement is best understood through an entry from 1849 that he wrote while in Chile. In drawing rooms, and even while praying, people ask the Lord for a safe trip up there. I believe that for centuries there has not been anything that has obsessed everyone all over the world as much as California. They say so much about that far-off land that my diary, even if it were to be completely filled, could never contain all the news that reaches us all the time from that remote land. Summing it up, they say that everyone who gets there can get this portrait. Then fine, that is where I am going.
Not everyone who traveled to California was looking to literally strike gold. There were opportunities for businessmen to capitalize on the growing needs of the miners. Businesses were able to charge an equivalent of what would be $25 today for one peg and $2,500 for a pair of boots. Manufacturing, trade, entertainment, and newly formed banks such as Wells Fargo all himself to use copper rivets at the points of strain on the jeans to ensure that they would endure a hard day's work in the mine. Levi's renowned blue jeans are still used throughout the world and are a symbol of the American identity. From the gold rush emerged the renowned Stanford University. Leland Stanford, a wealthy man, first moved to California with his family to sell mining equipment. While in California, Stanford became politically active and soon became governor of California from 1862 to 1863.
Yeah, but you can't.
The death of Stanford's young son prompted him to found Stanford University. Leland Stanford, along with Mark Hopkinson, Collins Huntington, and Charles Crocker, known as the Big Four, planned to construct the eastbound section of the Transcontinental Railroad. Stanford was instrumental in obtaining massive state investments in while the gold rush put San Francisco on the map, the decision to have the western terminal of the Transcontinental Railroad, a train line that connected the east to the west in San Francisco, provided further validation that it was a dominant western trade. The California gold rush caused economic expansion of railroad between the state and the country. In total, about 250,000 people came to California during the gold rush. By the mid-1850s, the number of people who worked in before the rush there were 8,000 to 12,000 people. By the end of the gold rush, the population was over 300,000. The often not discussed tragedy of the gold rush is the story of the Native Americans and the horrendous loss of life they suffered as a result of finding gold. While the population of California increased, the Native American population substantially decreased. It is estimated that there were over 150,000 Native Americans living in the region in 1845. 5 years later, in 1850, the population is estimated to have been at 30,000, with other reports citing even fewer. People mining for gold, mostly Native Americans, this is a horrendous act that still resonates tomorrow.
Through the gold rush, we were able to witness an unprecedented expansion of both population and land. This moment in time truly embodies the concept of manifest destiny, the desire for the U.S. to stretch from East Coast to the West Coast.
California was the place that drew dreamers and prospectors. Many failed, but those who flourished are still remembered today. The miners embodied what could be considered an early American dream.
The enthusiasm to strike out on one's own and to risk life is a trait often associated to the brave men and women of early America. The gold rush can be understood as a time that did not separate the vast country of the U.S., but instead through discovery and innovation, the West and the East were finally joined, leading the way to a unified country.